Hey, welcome back to Living in Minnesota. My name is Joe Carmack, and it's time for your Twin Cities real estate market update. This is for September 2022. So I'm gonna hit you with several different rapid fire stats this time. You'll wanna grab a notebook and a pen and a paper because we're gonna cruise through them really quickly, but by the end, you're gonna know exactly what you need to know if you're thinking about buying or selling, you're worried about a crash, or you're wondering if prices are gonna come down. We're gonna cover all of that and so much more right now. All right, let's get right into it. So we always start off with your month supply of inventory. The lower we are, the more of a seller's market we're in, and the higher, more of a balanced to buyer's market we are. So 6 is the number that we'd love for a balanced market, typically 4 to 6 months, but I keep seeing 6 is the median benchmark they want us to hit for a balanced market. So what did we do in August? We actually stayed exactly flat from where we were in July. So this is really interesting to me. When I had looked at this a couple of days ago, they had actually said that we went down a 1/10 of a month supply, which was pretty interesting. That would be slightly more seller's market. And I see that they've now adjusted it here to the 1.8. So I'm actually a little bit surprised. That basically says we didn't get any more or less competitive in that relationship between how many buyers and how many sellers there are out in the market currently. I fully expected that number to go up. So the fact that we sat flat is a little bit interesting, but we'll certainly see what that number does as we go into those winter months. If you have any questions or if you want me to go over something again, definitely don't hesitate to let me know. But next we're gonna look at our sales prices. Now, I'm gonna circle back to this one. If you saw my first half recap market update video, this is the number that I'm keeping my eye on. Last month, we went down another 5,000 for the median sale price in the Twin Cities. From our peak, which was in June, you can see we've gone down there just about $10,000 in our median sales price. So I'm gonna save that for here in a second, but we're gonna talk about how much we're expecting it to come down. What you need to remember from now is these are always those winter months when prices dip the lowest, and then they go up in the summer months. So that's very, very normal. That's not uncommon. It's very much what we've expected. But again, I'll show you the number of how much we're expecting that to change as we continue through. Let's look at the days on market. This one's pretty interesting. You can see a year ago, we had 10 days on market. This past August, we had 15 days on market. Again, this is your September update, but our numbers report through the end of the last month. So you can see we're up 50% on our days on market. That is a pretty significant increase for us in the Twin Cities, but we're also way under what we've been, as you can see, for the last 10 years. This is a 10-year graph. And so we're going to see generally the fastest, the least number of days on market in those summer months when it's really hot. Typically we'll peak actually around April timeframe for the fastest, and then that'll start to go up. So again, we definitely expect this to be going up. However, we are up a lot more than we had been previously. So from a year ago, you can actually breathe a little bit more. If you're a buyer, there's a little bit more time to actually get out there. There's definitely less competition. And I'm telling you, my clients are really, really happy about that. One thing that we're not in love with is the number of homes for sale. Now, I'll show you new listings in a second, but this is just the number of homes that are on the market. You can see, I get comments all the time that people are thinking the market's crashing. If that was the case, we would see a flood of homes that were for sale in the market. That's not the case right now. We're definitely up a little bit. We'll take that. Just from 1 year ago, you can see we're up a couple hundred listings. That's a good metric. Okay, we need this to come off of the bottom, so we're cheering for that number to keep going. The one that is a little bit more interesting is this here, and this would be the number of new listings hitting the market. So last year, 7,700. This year, 6,200. So that's almost 20% fewer homes that are on the market, number of new listings getting put on the market from 1 year ago. Now, again, that feels a little bit misleading in a way because you can see we just had this huge spike of a year in 2021. So we shouldn't have as many as we did last year. That was pretty an incredible number. Some of that you can see number of new listings was just dwarfed a little bit in 2020. They then rebounded and everybody came back last year in full force. Perhaps rates, it accelerated people's timelines on things. I'm not concerned in the least, but it is certainly something to be aware of. The fact that we have almost the same number of homes that are on the market, the previous graph I showed you, but that we have so few new listings can tell us that there's a shift, so that the homes that are getting put on the market are not selling as quickly. Those inventory that's lasting a little bit longer on the market, thus our days on market is up. And so therefore, because we don't have as many new listings, you don't feel it as much with those other ones that are actually holding tight. So I think it's good. I think it's okay. It's healthy, not something that I'm concerned with, but certainly is a significant number to keep our eyes on. And this is for buyers and sellers. So a lot of buyers right now are seeing a home that's on the market for 600 and they're like, man, that feels a little high to me, or they're seeing price reductions happening. That's definitely becoming more of the case. And so what you're looking at with this graph here, I don't show you guys this one too often, but this is the original list price divided by the actual sales price. So list versus sale price ratio is what this is. It's a percentage. And so, let's say in an ideal world, I'm not even sure you can say an ideal world, but if it was perfectly balanced that the price we listed the home at was the home it sold at, that would be 100%. That's that red line there. Excuse me. So let's talk about the last couple of years, right? We've seen this number. This is a median number, so that's why it kind of rounds out at 100. But typically they'll sell for less, all these lower numbers during the winter months, as you'd expect. And then they're going to sell for a higher percentage during those summer months. So this was what was really interesting right in here. So this is 2020, that gift that keeps on giving of a year. But instead of seeing that competition get up for the summer, and then we should have seen this come back down, it didn't, because everything was delayed, from March when the pandemic really kicked off. That pushed everybody later into the year. And so as a result, people really came back in force, and we didn't see the V dip that we should have seen there. So then we stayed 100% that whole time. And then since we weren't at a V to come out of, we just went from there and got even more aggressive through 2021. So that's what you're looking at right there. That's why things look the way that they did. And then from there, we did the quote unquote normal thing to have our seasonal dip in sale price percentage, and then we came up this year. So what we saw from this year is things were not as crazy. I believe this is 102.8 was the peak that we were at, and we've since come down to 100%. So last month's statistic, median sales price was 100% of its original list price. So for those buyers, can you lowball that offer and get it? Sometimes yes and no. I mean, that's kind of a different conversation, but you should know that the median numbers that they're probably going to get their list price initially, especially if they've done a price reduction, don't anticipate that you're going to also get to lowball them. Certainly I'm going to try and get you that deal, but being realistic, we're still very much in a seller's market, as you saw with our month supply of inventory graph. We're still incredibly low. Okay, so even when you adjust this, if I did the rolling annual number, we're still incredibly competitive, just because it's slightly started to shift. Don't get too eager, when you're a buyer. Back to the prices. When you're a seller, the biggest thing I'm trying to coach my sellers is you cannot be too aggressive on that list price. You really have to understand, just because your neighbor who listed their house 6 months ago sold it in 12 hours with 10 offers, that's not the market that we're in right now. It's not the market that we're in seasonally, and it's not the market that we're going to be in the next year or something. I mean, that was an extreme situation that's since passed. And so you can't see that they sold their home for 500 and then all of a sudden you're going to throw it at 550 just to see what happens. The market is trending the opposite direction, that you're going to shoot yourself in the foot if you take that approach. So we don't want to do that. We need to be a little bit more conservative and really fit into the pocket of what we think your home is worth. We're getting a lot more strategic and aggressive at really dialing down, okay, this one's got a cooktop and wall ovens, but this one's got a range. This one's got cement driveway. This one's got asphalt. This one's got a new roof. This one's got an old roof. And so exactly how do I price that home? It makes my job a lot more fun. I actually really enjoy that strategy of it. But your seller emotion of, well, my neighbor did this, so therefore I think I should get that. The buyers don't care what you think it should be worth. They just know what they're comparing your home against. There's the other 5 or 10 homes that they've seen, and how they feel the home's worth is ultimately what it's going to sell at. That is the definition of market value, what somebody's willing to pay you. So that's what we're looking at there. The one thing I will note is I absolutely expect this to start coming down. So I suspect that as we always go down in the winter months. We've already started that. I think we're going to go lower and lower as we get into November and December of this year. It always comes down seasonally anyways. I think we're kind of getting ourselves back on track now, and I expect that number to keep going down. So if you're a seller, it's going to get harder before it gets easier. It'll be interesting to see how quickly that number starts coming up with the spring market, kind of that February, March timeframe. I'm excited to see that. Perhaps we will get to 100% as our norm for next year. I also wouldn't be surprised if we stay below that and get a little bit more down into here where our total numbers are just simply under 100%. I think that's pretty realistic. That will also start to drive prices. So if we stay under for too long, that could also mean that our prices are going to come down more quickly or significantly. So again, that's a number that we're going to keep our eyes on. Now, I told you we were going to come back to this, and we definitely are, because this is the number that, if you forget everything else I said, the number that I'm looking at is what our sale price numbers are doing when we're taking into seasonally adjusted numbers. So I showed you this last time. I'm going to keep bringing up this graph. I bet you'll see this every month from me for the next year, probably. If we take from the lowest point on that graph, which is generally January, and then if we look at the peak somewhere around June or July, 2019 went up 12.4. Then from that peak down to the following January, 7.4 down. 6.3 up, 5.6 down. This year, here's where we at so far. So we went up from January to June, 14.1% in the Twin Cities. Now that we've came down another 5%, rounded, last month was 1.3, now we're at 2.7. Drop so far for the year. So just for fun, I ran that number, and if we keep going down 1.3%, we're still going to be up for the year. I believe the number was 6.8% up. That will be for 2022 annually. I think that'd be great. I mean, I'd be really happy with that. It's really gonna be anyone's guess how we end up for the year, but if we're only at like a 6 or 7% up, I think that would be really, really healthy for our local market. And then if you missed it in my other video that I did, the next 5 years, they surveyed 100 economists across the US, the top thinking heads, big brains that dive into these analytics so much more of global economics. Their predictions are that over the next 5 years, we average 3.69% increase. The lowest increase of the next 5 years was 3.12%. So what that means is there wasn't a negative number in any of those. Okay, the lowest increase was 3.12%. So this year, if we're at 6 or 7%, I think that'd be great. If we keep trending like that, we'll probably be right around 7% price appreciation. Also, that's going to mean if I just had another person comment, and I'm not throwing any shade, but if you're just waiting for the market to cool down or to calm down, the market already is fairly cool, and prices aren't coming down because those are not the same thing. Okay, the amount of demand, it's all about supply and demand, right? They're not expecting that our prices are coming down. So you do what's right for you. You can plan accordingly as far as that goes. But currently we're at 2.7, and we'll stay tuned to see how the rest of the year shapes up. So that's what you need to know for the Twin Cities real estate market this month. It's September 2022. My name's Joe Carmack. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll subscribe and go find a ton more content on the channel.